Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of Theme Park Society, a place where we talk about guest experiences in our favorite destinations with a special focus on the sweetest place on earth, Hershey Park and Hershey, Pennsylvania. If you are watching this episode on YouTube with in-park visuals, we would like to ask that you would please subscribe to our channel and then leave us a comment on this video telling us what you are looking forward to in the park in 2022. If you are listening to this episode in podcast form on any major podcasting platform, please feel free to subscribe to us or follow us on that platform, and then maybe share us with a friend, someone else who's excited to get into the park in 2022. Then, after that, find us on Instagram by searching Theme Park Society, give us a follow, and stay up to date with us as we release new episodes throughout the year, and then join us in the parks virtually. On today's episode, we are very excited to bring you our official review of Hershey Park for the operating year of 2022. We just got back from a weekend at the park. It was an absolute great time, and we are so excited to tell you all about it and let you know what you can expect to see at Hershey Park in 2022. We're going to talk everything from food to ride operations to the roller coasters and so much more. So stay tuned until the end of the episode and let us know what you think about Hershey Park in 2022. So before we jump into today's episode, I just wanted to give you a quick outline of how this episode is going to look because we have a lot of ground to cover. So first, I'm going to give you some basic Hershey Park information. So whether you've not yet visited Hershey Park or maybe you just haven't been in a while, we're going to get everyone on the same page here. And then the next part of the episode, I just wanted to talk about my trip and kind of give you a outline of how the trip went from when I arrived to when I left and how long I was in the parks. And then finally, we're going to get into the actual review of the park for 2022. Like I said earlier, we're going to talk about everything from park operations to roller coasters to ticketing to all of that fun stuff. And then at the end, we are going to tell you things that are going to be happening at Hershey Park in 2022, but have not yet happened. So things that we can look forward to, things that we're excited about, and things that we hope you will also be excited about. So stay tuned till the end of the episode. We have got a lot of ground to cover, and let's get excited to get back into the park in 2022. So let's talk about Hershey Park. What is it? Well, if you're listening to this episode, I'm sure you are very familiar with Hershey Park, but maybe you've not yet visited the park. So you're going to be entering a large theme park that owns its own resorts. It has a water park called the Boardwalk. It has on-property attractions that are technically outside the park, like Hershey Gardens, Zoo America, the Hershey Story Museum, and quite a bit more. Hershey Park itself has 15 roller coasters, and it has tons of other attractions, whether they be attractions for children or family rides or even thrill rides, things like swings, classic rides, a whole bunch of flat rides. It's just a phenomenal theme park. It has been around for a very, very long time. There's tons of videos on YouTube about the history of the park, so if that interests you, please feel free to check those out. We personally do not have one of those uploaded to our channel. We've never made one, but there are a few great ones on YouTube, so the resources to learn about the park are there. But that is essentially a quick outline of Hershey Park and what you can expect if you've not been there before. But let's go ahead and talk about my trip, and then I'm going to give you a review of what you can expect to see at Hershey Park in 2022. So before we talk about our in-park experience for 2022, let me just give you a quick outline of how my trip went this past weekend. We are in the middle of April. The park is only open on weekends at this time, but that is going to change further in the season. I will talk about that a little bit later in the episode, but right now the park is only open on weekends. So I arrived to Hershey around 2 p.m. on Saturday this past weekend, and I entered the park at around 3 p.m., and then I stayed until close, which is currently 7 p.m. I spent the night in Hershey, and then I arrived back at the park Sunday morning. Honestly, it was probably around noon, even though the park opens at 11. I waited until about noon to enter just because I had some other things that I was doing in the morning. And then I stayed until probably about 5 or 6 p.m. that day. So I was in the park most of the operating day. I also did visit the zoo twice this trip. So I visited the zoo on Saturday as well as on Sunday. And I did not do any outside of the park activities. So I didn't do the gardens or anything like that, but I typically do do visit those when I have my trips to Hershey, but this weekend was just all about the park. So that's what we're going to talk about in this episode. We're going to tell you how everything went and what we could expect to see in the park later in 2022. Also, just a quick side note on this episode. If you've listened to us in the past, you probably know that I spend a lot of time editing and polishing up our episodes. That is not going to be the case with this episode, simply because there is just so much information that I want to give you. And I know a lot of you are planning on going to the park very soon, maybe even this coming weekend, which again, we're in the middle of April, but this episode is going to be good for the entire year. But like I said, I just wanted to get a lot of this information out to you, and I wanted to get it to you as soon as possible. So I am not going to spend a whole lot of time editing this episode in terms of audio. So you're going to hear a lot of me backtracking on what I said, possibly. You're going to hear a lot of ums and pauses and things like that. But like I said, I'm giving you accurate information. I am just not going to polish the audio in the episode as much this one time, just because I want to get you this information as quickly as possible. So keep that in mind. All of our other episodes are a little bit more smooth and flowing in terms of audio, but this one is just, I want to get you the information real quick so you can start using it right away. So bear with me on this one. And yeah, let's just get back into the episode. We're super excited about this one. So thanks again for listening. Let's go ahead and talk about the actual in-park experience that we had this year so far at HersheyPark in 2022. So let's start off on a big topic here, and this one's going to be roller coasters, because if you know anything about HersheyPark, you know that it is a coaster paradise. So let's talk about the roller coasters at HersheyPark in 2022. So again, we are here at the beginning of April. I guess we're kind of in the middle of April at this point. It seems that all of the coasters, minus one, are open and operating as normal. So Skyrush is good to go. Storm Runner is operating as intended. Everything's looking great for the coasters. The ride operations for the coasters are actually really, really, really good this year. So wait times are generally low, and it's been pretty busy in the park. That's also interesting to note because the water park is not yet open. So all of these crowds are hanging out at the rides. The water park, when it opens, it tends to absorb a large portion of the crowd every day, especially on warm days. But today we have everyone riding the rides, and the operations are going smooth. The trains are leaving the station in efficient time frames, so we're good to go this year. Now, when I mentioned that there is one coaster that is closed, I was talking about what was formerly known as Sidewinder. The reason it's closed is because it is getting its reimagined theming. So it is now going to be Jolly Rancher Remix. Once it reopens, it's going to be later in the year. The date is still to be determined, but again, that is the only reason that Sidewinder, formerly Sidewinder, I should say, is closed, is just because it's getting an entire new re-theme, and we are super excited about it. So coasters are looking good this year. I think on Sunday, Candymonium was closed for a little bit because of the rain. Honestly, it might have been shut all day. I'm not entirely sure. I wasn't really paying attention, but I do know that at least for the majority of the operating day on Sunday, it was closed. But Saturday, it was good to go. I was watching it run its track. It's looking great. The wait times are low. The ride operations are efficient, so we're going to be in really good shape for 2022 when it comes to all of the coasters at HersheyPark. So now that we've touched on some of the ride operations, let's talk about park operations throughout the rest of HersheyPark. Everything's running efficient, but let's go ahead and start with the actual park entry. So park entry was quick. I literally walked right up to the gates both days, both Saturday and Sunday. In fact, I actually did it twice on Sunday, I believe, because I went over to Hershey's Chocolate World in the middle of the day, so I had to exit the park and then re-enter. But all three times were extremely quick. Security was quick, but they were thorough. Bag check was very quick. They scanned my ticket. I was in. It took me almost no time at all to actually get into the park, so that was great. Even earlier on in the day, when people are still entering the park for the majority of the day, you still see these lines moving pretty quick. Now, the same thing goes for the ticketing counters right outside of the entry gates, but I would still advise that you would get your tickets either printed or you would have them saved on your phone or just something that you can scan and you can have that ready before you actually get to the park, because waiting in that ticketing line is going to eat into your park day. So definitely have your tickets ready. If you do have to stand in the ticketing line for one reason or another, they are going to be pretty efficient because they are operating well. I did have to stand in that line to get my king size pass holder appreciation bag, and that was really quick. But again, the more time that you can save to get into the park, the better it's going to be for your trip experience. So have your tickets ready and have everything ready to just get into the park as soon as you get there. Parking was easy. The trams are running, so you're able to get from your car to the park gates pretty quick, even if you park far away. So again, overview of park entry. It's going pretty smooth this year, but again, the quicker you can be getting into the park, the more time you're going to have to ride all of the coasters and things like that. So if you can avoid the ticketing line, it will probably be in your best interest. All right, so let's move into the park and let's talk about park operations elsewhere. Let's start with the cashless subject that you've probably already heard about. If you haven't, just so you know, HersheyPark is now cashless only throughout the park. So this means you're going to need to pay with either a card, you can pay with a gift card, or you can bring cash to the park with you and you can actually transfer that cash to a prepaid card. There's little machines throughout the park that you can do this on. They'll give you a little debit card. Well, I don't know why I'm saying little. It's just a regular debit card size, and you can use that around the park. The only places that will accept cash throughout the park, I believe, are just going to be like vending machines. Also, the people that you see walking around with the carts for like popcorn or cotton candy or frozen lemonade, things like that, those people will also accept cash at this time. But everything else, the stores, the restaurants, the food counters, things like that, you are going to need to pay with your card. So you have a couple of different options there, but cash is not going to be one of them. Now, this was not an issue for me because I don't typically use cash around the park, but I did actually look at the machines. It seems pretty straightforward. I didn't really see anybody using it, but I've heard no complaints so far. So if you need to bring cash to the park, just know that you will have to put it onto a card while you are there, but you will probably not have any issues besides that because it's a pretty straightforward process, and everything's running pretty smooth this year, so I'd imagine that the machines would be running smooth as well. Like I said, there's a few of them throughout the park. You should have no problem locating them. If you just ask any of the park staff, they can direct you to where the nearest one is. You should be just fine with that. So that's the new cashless subject, but let's talk about operations throughout the rest of the park. I did notice that there were a lot of new hires this year getting trained, either at the food counters or at the shops or anything like that, and that is not slowing anything down. The other park staff who is training these new hires, they're doing a great job. The new hires are doing a great job, so everything's running smooth in that regard. And then same thing with the food. I would actually particularly point out that the food operations seem to be moving pretty quick this year, so I don't know if it's that they have more staff or maybe they just are running it a little bit differently. I'm not really sure, but like the Overlook, the food court that I like to eat in, that most of the people in the park like to eat in, it's usually a pretty decent wait for that. But I went this past weekend. I went there twice. Both times that I entered, it was insanely crowded, but they got through these lines super fast. They had people taking orders from the people behind me while I was waiting for my food, and it was very smooth. And still, I saw new hires in there, but they were doing a great job. So park operations from the food side of things is going pretty well. Wait times are pretty low for the food. For the most part, everything was open. There were a couple of locations that were shut that should be opening later in the year, but park operations seem to be going very well throughout the park, and I expect that to continue for the rest of 2022. Let's talk about the zoo real quick because that is included in your park admission. Whether you got a day pass or you have a season pass, the zoo is going to be included. So obviously you probably know this, but if you don't, you do have to enter the zoo through the park. So you'd have to enter the park first, and then there is a bridge that connects the park to the zoo. That's where you would have to go to visit the zoo if you do not want to pay an extra fare. So do not enter through the zoo's main gates if you plan on using the zoo entry that's included with your park ticket. So really not much to say about the zoo. We kind of all know what it's like. It was clean as always. It was super quick to get in and out of the zoo. The indoor exhibits are all open, which is big news. I do know that last year There was a lot of questions because prior to last year, it was shut down. Like the indoor exhibits were closed, but a lot of people have been asking if they're open again. And yes, they are. The exhibits are all primarily the same, but the zoo, clean as always, easy as always, fun as always. Not much to say about that one. Just know that it is included in your park admission. So if you want to visit the zoo, you do not have to pay extra if you are already visiting the park. Additionally, there is new park merch all around the park and in Hershey's Chocolate World, which I advise that you visit Hershey's Chocolate World with every visit. Now, this past trip, I did visit it both Saturday and Sunday. It was extremely crowded both days, but it was still fun to walk around and check out the new merch and just kind of see what's going on. They got the Easter Bunny in there right now, taking photos with the children. So it's a great place to be. Obviously, it doesn't cost anything to enter that building. The chocolate tour ride is free to anyone who just walks in, gets in line. There are paid extras within Hershey's Chocolate World that I have not yet done, but I do think they look pretty neat, and I probably will get to them at some point this summer. But again, Hershey's Chocolate World, it was running great as well. The line was moving super quick, but this is nothing new here. Hershey's Chocolate World has always been run really well, so definitely visit the Chocolate World when you are visiting Hershey Park. It doesn't cost you any extra, and it definitely gets you immersed in the Hershey brand before you enter the park, or maybe even as you're leaving, or maybe even midday. It's a cool place to get something to eat, great milkshakes. There's always cool treats in there, great merch. The chocolate tour is fun to ride. I don't know, I'm just rambling on about Hershey's Chocolate World. Nothing really more to add to it, but definitely give it a visit if you plan on visiting the park. It is well worth it, and it is right outside of the park gates, so you are not going out of your way if you want to visit Hershey's Chocolate World. Just make sure that when you visit the park, if you've not yet visited, make sure that when you are visiting the park and you plan to also do Chocolate World, that you just park at the HersheyPark general parking lots. Do not try to park in Hershey's Chocolate World because there is a time limit to that parking lot, and you will have to move your car in between Hershey's Chocolate World and going into the park, and you don't want to do that. So just park in the general parking lot for Hershey Park, and then you could visit both Hershey's Chocolate World and Hershey Park, and you will not be walking out of your way for either. So now let's talk about things that we have to look forward to at Hershey Park in 2022. So I touched on this one a little bit earlier, but let's go ahead and talk about it a little bit more in depth here, and that is going to be Jolly Rancher Remix, which is the retheming to the coaster formerly known as Sidewinder. So if you're not familiar, this is the coaster located in Pioneer Frontier. It is a boomerang style coaster, and it is getting a full retheme to Jolly Ranchers, which is great because it's going to be very immersive with the Hershey brand. The colors are phenomenal. We did post some reels to our Instagram about the new paint that you're going to be seeing there, as well as the buildings that the coaster is going to go through. So definitely take a look at that if you haven't yet, but we are super excited. And like I said, this is really going to immerse you in Hershey theming, and I really like that. I love that Hershey's doing that throughout the park, so super happy to see that, super excited for that to open. However, we do not have an exact date of opening for the new Jolly Rancher Remix, but we do know that the king-size pass holders will get an exclusive chance to be the first ones to ride it. So the date is to be determined at this time, but hopefully we will be hearing about it soon. But like I said, check out our Instagram or really any other Hershey Park news outlet for previews of what the paint looks like. The colors are wonderful. They're doing a great job, and we are so excited about it. Additionally, we also have another flat ride coming to Hershey Park, and it is going to be surrounded by this new coaster that we're talking about. And the new flat ride is called Mixed Flavored by Jolly Rancher. Again, we're kind of in the same boat with this one as for the date, where it's not yet been announced, but hopefully we get a date soon. And then again, we also posted reels on our Instagram that showcase this new ride, as well as the new paint job for Jolly Rancher Remix. So check out our Instagram. But again, this new retheming and the new attraction and everything like that, there are tons of photos already online about it. Everyone's super excited. We are also super excited. So definitely check it out online if you have not yet. But I think we're in for something really cool when both of these attractions open. Another thing to look forward to for Hershey Park in 2022 is going to be Hershey Park in the Dark. Now, you might be thinking, oh, okay, well, we expect that every year, but this year is going to be different. And this is another one of those things where Hershey Park hasn't given us 100% of the details yet, but they're kind of giving us little teasers here and there about what it's going to be like. We do know that it is going to include some more scary elements this year than it has in years previous. So we don't know exactly what that's going to entail, but there is tons of excitement around it. We're going to keep you updated as we find out more information. But again, that is something that we have to look forward to at Hershey Park in 2022. That's going to be happening around the fall time, of course, but more to be announced on that. And then Christmas Candy Lane. We didn't get a chance to go last year, so we're excited. We're excited to go see the Christmas trees. We love that time of year. We're not a huge fan of the cold, but I definitely love the theming. And like I said, I missed out last year. I just had other things that I was doing around Christmas time last year, so I was unable to make it to the park. So that is definitely something to look forward to this year, and I am super excited. And again, we'll keep you updated as more information is released, but that is something that happens regularly year after year. So you kind of know what to expect, but again, the theming is just wonderful. You got the Sweet Lights, which is the drive-through Christmas lights that we'll be having later on in the year as well. So a lot of great things to look forward to. Some of them are brand new, some of them are seasonal, but definitely a lot of excitement coming later on in the year at Hershey Park. So, with all this being said, we are expecting a phenomenal year at Hershey Park. Everything's running super smooth. The staff is phenomenal in the park this year, as they are every year. Operations is going great. The coasters are running smooth. The wait times are low. The boardwalk is going to open a little bit later in the year. It's actually going to be on May 28th to be exact. So that's another thing to look forward to. If you're someone who doesn't visit the boardwalk, someone who doesn't do water rides, such as myself, I don't do water rides. I don't really visit the boardwalk. This is still, the opening date of the boardwalk is still something that is going to matter to you because, like I said earlier, the boardwalk is a big crowd absorber. So if you're someone who doesn't visit the boardwalk at all, it is still going to make a difference to your day because that means that there's typically going to be lower wait times for the rides around the boardwalk. And then the boardwalk will, make a whole bunch of other people happy while you're happy with shorter wait times. So May 28th is when we see the boardwalk open. We also will see the park go to 7 days a week on May 28th rather than just the weekends. In addition to the park moving to 7 days a week for operating season, we're also going to see the hours extended ever so slightly. Right now, the park is open from 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. We're going to see it open from 11 a.m. until 8 p.m. unless they announce, a change in the hours moving forward. But right now, that's what we're looking at. That's what we have to look forward to. And we are just super, super, super excited to visit the park, countless times this year. I was going to say a million times, but I'm not going to be that dramatic about it. Countless times. We're going to go to the park. We're going to have tons of fun, and we're going to bring it all to you, the listener. So follow us on Instagram, follow us on YouTube, listen to our podcast. We got a lot of Hershey Park content to bring you. We also bring you Disney World content, and we're going to start bringing you some other parks as well. But those are our two main ones. Is going to be Disney World and Hershey Park, as you already know if you've listened to us before. If you haven't, please check out some of our previous episodes and stay up to date with our newest episodes. And like I mentioned earlier, I apologize that the editing of this episode is going to be significantly less than it would be in our typical episodes, and that's just because I have tons of information I wanted to give you as soon as possible. This was the way to do it. Get excited for Hershey Park in 2022 because it is going to be a great year in the park. So stay up to date with us. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll talk again real soon.